Brilliant. That's it. Sorted, David.
We're now live.
Okay, so can I first of all welcome you all to the FES meeting for April. Are there any apologies? No, because I think everyone's here. The minutes of the last meeting, would someone like to move them or otherwise?
I'll move them.
Only seconded.
Can
I
I
say,
ask a couple of questions for things that aren't on the agenda later on?
yeah,
The number 7, the blues artist deposits. If we've now decided to cancel the blues, I take it, are we writing those off this financial year then?
Yes, we will be.
Right. And how much was it in again? Approximately?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it was around the 12 to 14 grand mark.
Right. Okay. And just an update for everyone else as well on 13 on the neighbourhood plan, just to say that the document was corrected. Kirkwells obviously did their work for full council, and that's all been submitted, I take it, this evening?
Yep.
Right, good. So all done and dusted on that one. No other questions. Thank you, David.
okay. So could I see all those in favour of the minutes? Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Take that as a no. Public forum, there are no public here that I'm aware of. So, moving on, exclusion of the public to determine during which items, if any, the public are to be excluded from the meeting. I am aware that there is one item which is a staffing review. What I intend to do with that one when we come to it is initially ask Naomi to remain in the meeting in case we want to ask any questions or anything, and then if we come to the stage where we feel it would be appropriate for us to have a discussion and remove Naomi, then at that point we will ask Naomi to move if everyone's happy with that course of action. I just thought if we send her out at room and we want to ask something, we're going to be toing and froing. So once we've got to the stage that we're happy we don't have any questions for her, would then ask her to leave if we wanted. Okay. So moving back to the public items then. Item 7, financial update. Do you want to say anything on any of these three, A, B or C, Gina?
Probably not. Most of it's going to come in the next item for the year-end update. But if anyone's got any specific questions on the actual spreadsheets, then if you want to ask them now. David?
David?
So I noticed that obviously the action from last time about splitting out the actual and the commitments, that looks good. Gives a good picture, I think, there. So that informs obviously what we really spend and what we're going to spend. That's good. On the obviously then I can understand there about the income less the expenditure equals the figure in the balance sheet. So I think that's the sort of main purpose I had for doing that, to make sure it all hangs together. Mm-hmm. On your list of reserves at the bottom of 7A, there's a general reserve of 80,000 missing, I think. I know it's not technically classed as an EMR, is it? It's more a general reserve.
It's no, the general reserve at the, because we've got the minimum revenue reserve, which is what we said we didn't want the reserves to go below.
Yeah.
So that's there, but because we created that, then you've actually got a minus general reserve at the moment because of the amount that we've put in from reserves during the year.
Right.
That shows in your overspent budget in the bottom right.
Right. Yeah, because I could see in the balance sheet, I can see how we've got a general reserve for the year of 255,000, and I see that that's made up of the 990, which is the income with the 90,000 earmark reserve movement added back, less the 736 of expenditure. So I know that's now those two numbers make the 255. So in a way, that sort of minus 63 number, sort of, how does that fit in then?
That's because we expect our estimated new reserve to be 357,601, because we've added expenditure from the general reserves and put it into the current year fund. It's classed as an overspent budget, so it reduces your estimated reserve. Then from that, it takes away the earmark reserves, which leaves you, why it's left with a minus figure at the top. So basically, your estimated new reserve, take away your earmark reserves, equals your minus figure at the top.
So we're sort of estimating things and with actual things.
Yeah. Well, your actual reserve carried forward is obviously what we carried forward from last year.
Right. Okay.
And then because we have an overspent budget, that then reduces those reserves to carry forward.
I thought in a way, I mean, I was just trying to get it so that we actually understand how the two schedules match up together. Mixing in estimates and things like that means we're sort of got actuals and estimates put together. I tell you what, why don't I'll just have a chat with you offline about it, just to make sure I understand it.
Okay.
But yeah, no other questions.
Yeah. Are there any questions from anyone else? No. So can we accept A, B, and C? And then if there's any more detail to talk about, it can come into item 8, which is the year-end update, as Gina suggested. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to move on to item 8 then, Gina?
We got proposer and a seconder for those finances.
I'll propose it. And I would second it, or David, or whoever.
Okay. So the next item, I'll just start with, we're still actually working on the, working out the prepayments and accruals. And our actual audit is booked for the week commencing, I think it's the 25th, or it might be the 27th of April. So it's the end of April. Because obviously we were still spending last week and we're still in the year when Katie was here, I hadn't had a chance to do any of the formal reports that would normally come with the year end. So they will come at the next meeting, which will be at the beginning of May. I have done a few slight calculations, looking at what we have left at the moment, and looking at what needs to be accrued. There's about £16,000 that needs to be accrued for certain things, utilities, phone lines, that kind of thing. We have already committed quite a lot of the money, in that we did take money from reserves throughout the year, which we said if we had a surplus at the end of the year we would replace. So basically, going from that, we have about 160,000 left. We then take off the 16 accruals, which leaves us with 144,000. Then if we put back everything that we said we would, also there's a 7,000 earmark reserve we need to create for bad debt. mainly rental income, which would then leave us with just over £100,000 left. Now, there are certain areas that I would suggest that we carry forward, certain budgets, mainly repairs and maintenance, playground development, the training budgets I want to carry through, because the lensman is going to need quite a bit of training, to go on courses just to refresh. Repairs and maintenance, there are contingencies in there, which we could carry forward. But as I was working through, if everything that we want to carry forward, such as this fixed wire testing, town hall clock, basically the fixed wire testing is due next year and we're not quite sure how much it's going to be. We expect it's probably more than we budgeted for. And the town hall clock, obviously, you know, has had, we are replacing the auto winders because they failed over the Christmas period. So I would take that money forward. The Primet community budget has to stay with Primet. So that, again, will be carried forward, or either carried forward or we create an earmark reserve for Primet and add it in there. So once you go through all that, you take your R&M budgets forward, we will basically be left, if I've worked out, just over or just under £9,000 left for the year. So obviously we can look at what we're going to carry forward. Next month, I will put a report together saying what I think you should carry forward, and obviously options we can discuss. I mean, the contingency budgets. There's one CCTV budget which I think is about £5,000. Now, the work that we were due to get done this year hasn't actually been done yet. So in essence, for that project, I probably would carry that contingency forward, especially because we were looking at CCTV for other areas as well. So it might be worth carrying that forward. But yeah, just to obviously give you an indication of, even though it looks like we do have a large surplus, in essence, we don't actually, because we have committed quite a lot of it. I mean, the things that we committed for to put back were certain things in playgrounds, community development. I mean, we can obviously look at that next month if you would rather move to different earmark reserves, but that's just give you an indication of where we think we'll be if we carry things forward and replace earmark reserves like we said we would. So has anybody got any questions?
David?
So you obviously reeled off lots and lots of different numbers there. When do you think you'd have a draft ready for us to just see how we get from current position to year-end position?
Well, it's likely in a week or so we should have a better picture once we've done all the journals for the accruals, etc. And obviously the items that we said we would replace, I know the values of that and where they will be going. Okay. So I mean, I can always send something out via email before the next meeting if members would prefer.
What do the auditors do on the things like our choices of reserves? Are they going to audit those as well in that visit on the 26th, 27th?
They will probably audit what we said we wanted to do, and if we've what's been minuted. whether it's been transferred correctly, that kind of thing. They're not really bothered kind of from what we choose to spend our money on. Obviously we earmark reserves for certain projects. They wouldn't be bothered with that side of it. It's more that obviously we've got enough general reserve to cover if anything went wrong, and to make sure that decisions that have been made during meetings have been carried out correctly.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. As you say, more interested in the stuff that's been and gone at the 31st of March rather than, how we categorise the leftovers into projects for the future. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Anyone else? No? I take it these figures do allow us to roll forward the remaining allotment budget because of what's been going on this year with COVID. We haven't had a chance to do some of the things we wanted to do with allotments, and they do have a fair chunk of money left, and that does allow to roll that forward, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Just feeding into that, David. Sorry, I know later on in the meeting you talk about a bit of extra money for one or two things, and noting obviously that we're not going to need the full original events budget that we put to one side. So I'm assuming it's probably a wise move if we revisit quite a few of the little pots of choices we made, as you say, like allotments, because things have changed. We've obviously taken on the decision to take on a lengthsman, etc. So these things might mean we rejig a few homes for some of these monies.
Yeah, no, that would. I will also obviously put a revised 21-22 budget. Obviously, because we've decided to cancel events up to the 1st of September, it will make a difference on the budget. So we will have a little bit of money to play with. So it's obviously I will just probably put a suggestion down to give you a new budget and then tell you what I've changed, and then obviously we can discuss it from there.
Yeah. Anyone else? No? So do we just need to note your report then, Gina?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So can we all note that report from Gina on the year-end update? Item 9, insurance premium.
Okay, so you've read the report. Obviously, the insurance premium has increased quite substantially from last year, mainly because we've added quite a lot in. So you have equipment for the lensman, etc. We've done 2 big projects. So obviously, your phase 1, the town hall, which we got a loan for, and obviously the playground development. So we have quite a lot more playground equipment. With that as well comes added public liability. We also added the extra CCTV that we've put in. So this is all obviously added to it. There's also the playground surfacing, gates and fencing, and benches. So that has added to it quite substantially. Has anyone got any questions?
Howard?
I think, though, when you look at it overall in the round, it's not as if it's doubled or anything. It's probably in line with what you'd expect. And we've got to bear in mind as well that we've had however many claims it now is for the roof and other things, 3 claims for the roof, so that they're going to perhaps look at us as being a bit of a poor risk. But I do know, I can't find the line now, in the report it does say that will go out. Is it next year or the year? I can't find it now. But it says that
April 2020.
sorry, I found it again. That we will go out and shop around, although I think you'll tend to find that we end up back at the same people, because Zurich are one of the ones that's what they base a lot of their initial core business on, is municipal authorities. Pendle for a long time were with Zurich. I don't know if they still are. So I think it was inevitable it was going to go up. We just got to make sure we are getting the value for it, and the next renewal we ask as many people as possible to do. I mean, I don't suppose it'd do much good asking the man that sings to go compare it, because it won't work. But we just have to keep on top of it and maybe hope things don't break, fall in, or get broken.
There are a few others that do council insurance, so it is worth getting quotes from all of them, really, just to see if we are getting value with the premium. Being that it ends in 2023, until then, there's no obvious scale increase. It's just the 3% that they would put on anyway. And I'm thinking when it comes to April 23, like you say, Howard, because we've had quite a few claims, that may go up quite a bit. So.
Yeah, David?
Yeah, I think I was a bit nervous like Howard. I think when you run through the first page on the background, you suddenly think it's going to be a double or a triple there. I've seen that in one or two of my clients at the moment. So I think there's no particular concerns about that. You've got a small typo in para 5, by the way, on the penultimate line. Should be 2020, not 21.
Yeah.
The only sort of question I had in one of the appendices where you've got all the breakdowns of the various items. Also, we've got all the various bits of art and regalia and all that kind of thing. Are there any rules about use or storage or protection, or just the fact we've got an alarm system in the town hall is good enough? And are there any restrictions on using them? I'm not saying we take out the regalia as such, but you never know. One day we might.
No, I think obviously we put where we tell them where things are stored, but you know they're obviously there to be used as they are. I don't think there's any particular restrictions. Some of them are just for in situ. Obviously, some of them are for to take out. You know, like what you would with your home insurance if you carrying equipment to and fro. Obviously, you insure for that purpose, so that if they do get damaged off the premises, you're still covered.
Naomi?
Just on that point, it is one of those that if we use them for something out of the norm, we would always check that it was covered or get extra to cover them. But if the insurers deemed we did something, say, foolish with kit, say if we left 10 gazebos stacked in a car park with no one supervising, we wouldn't be covered for it then, because that would be negligence on our part.
Yeah.
I think what we've also got to remember, I know insurance has gone up, and like Gina has said, it may go up when it's up for a full-blown renewal, because they might, do a complete reassess and say, they're a liability, so we're going to load it. I don't know, but we'll have to go out to tender when that time comes. But we've also got to remember that we are bigger than we were. We have more things insured than we had, and we've got more value on the amount of money that passes through the council as well. So that accounts for some of the reason as to why some of it's gone up. But if you look at it, if you look at the insurance cost, as a comparison to our turnover, it is not a lot.
True.
Is there anyone else? So do we just need to note this or to approve it?
I think it's just to note, it was just to obviously tell you why it's increased.
Okay. Noted then.
Are we agreeing the recommendations or not?
Yeah, you can do the. Oh yeah, there's the where we're going to obviously take the, because there's the provision for next year isn't sufficient. I was proposing that we obviously take some of it from the blue, basically the blues budget that there's in there, and obviously do the exercise when it comes to the end of 2023 to make sure that we are getting the best value.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so can I get a proposer and seconder for that? Okay.
Howard and David. Okay, moving on. Item 10, social media policy. And I think there's another one over at page, isn't there? There is, no, there's only one, isn't there? Just the social media policy. Does anyone, any comments on that? David?
Just a couple of small ones. 5.3. Calibri font, yeah, that's fine. Checking the grammar's fine, yeah. I'm going to add checking the spelling as well.
Okay. Yeah.
One question on 5.7 as well. I've got the 48 hours notice. So just run me through. So what we have to do there is, if we want something to go on the Combe Town Council social media account, we need to tell you 48 hours within office hours. So that's basically 2 days notice, 2 working days notice.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, because we cannot always guarantee that we will see our emails if you request it. If it was urgent, let's say, I don't know, the police station blew up and we had to notify people of road closure and stuff.
Yeah.
We would probably know that anyway. But we have a lot of stuff that we schedule in. So we would, if we've got that notice, we can schedule it in with other things, because you'll have noticed that the social media is a lot more active in the last few months. So it's also, for example, at the end of April, we've got a course where we're all out the office. So if you send it on that day, I can't say I'll get it, or any of us will get it, until we're back in the office. So 48 hours seemed a reasonable time to ask for something in advance.
Yeah. Okay. Then. I was just thinking, if there are, as you say, things happening, like let's say that there's a council event on the Saturday and something happens on the Thursday or the Friday, you know, then again, getting the news out. But it's that sort of thing where somebody would know in advance and you'd be there ready, prepped, waiting just in case.
If it was something like, it was, say, it's that kind of idea that we may not be able to reply to emails or see things the day we receive them. So it's just kind of giving us some time to be able to see them and get it actioned.
Yeah. Okay.
If you send it at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, it's not likely to be seen till Monday.
And I thought social media was supposed to be like that. Oh well. No other comments though.
Is committee happy to recommend that forward to full council next month, this month then?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the problem is that social media can be like that. So maybe this gives people time, you know, don't do it at 11 o'clock when you've come back from the pub type thing. At least this way it gives that little bit of breathing space, so that if it isn't urgent, obviously if it's I don't know, a tree's blown down in Elkin Coats Park. We need to do something about it or keep away from the playground. Well, that's a rarity rather than
The norm.
just, you know, it's a council market this next Saturday and da-da-da.
I can say safely that your staff do all monitor social media, whether they are in work or not. However, I try to advise them not to be spending their Saturday evening sorting out council Facebook messages.
Shouldn't be.
Nope. Anything else on that?
Just if we can have a proposer and seconder to recommend it to full council.
Will someone propose that? Brian
And Emma, by the look of it.
and Emma? All those in favour? Thank you.
I think Emma's full of Easter eggs from what she said earlier on Facebook.
Item 11, items for a future month's agenda. This is actually something we asked for on full council. I don't know whether we necessarily need it or want it on FES. I'm quite happy to leave it on if everybody thinks it could be useful. Whatever you think.
I think, Chair, for the sake of 3 lines of ink, it's worth keeping it. You never know when something might just come up that we need to make sure it's on the next month's agenda.
Fine, we'll leave it on then. Has anyone anything under this item then? No. So moving on to date and time of the next regular meeting. This regular meeting gets me, does that, you know? Which meetings are regular and which are irregular? The next one on the 4th of May should be our last one online for the normal run of meetings. And there's nothing to stop us in future if we wanted a working group type meeting. They can still be online if we wish. But as regarding the other meetings for FES and the other committees and for full council meeting, from the 7th, they do have to be proper meetings. So the next one of this committee, which is before the 7th of May, will actually be, hopefully, the last one that is done like this.
I think the implication that these aren't proper meetings is a bit misleading.
Yeah.
What it means is the legislation will fall on the 7th of May, or it's already not been renewed, so that we won't be allowed to do it, which will cause its own. It's going to cause problems for councils smaller than us, I think, in that we are fortunate that in having the town hall, the council chamber is just about big enough to fit 20 people in. So there then becomes a problem of if hordes or herds of public want to attend as to how we cross that bridge. But I'm sure there are ways around that, and we'll have to look at that as we need to. But I'm sure there are other people in other places that are going to have much more trouble in all fitting in a room and be, as we're still supposed to be till about, is it the 17th of May or maybe even beyond that, to be at the requisite distance apart. Either that or we all wear masks and a boiler suit, you know, the Tyvek suits that everybody wears, which wouldn't really work, would it?
No. Well, I'll let Naomi come in and explain to you what's going to happen at our normal meetings after that, and then she can steal all Nathan's thunder, because it's Nathan who's been helping sort some of it out.
Physical meetings. That's what it is. We everything's being re-risk assessed. Howard is correct with the number we are allowed to fit in the chambers, and it'll be slightly different seating to what we've had previously until the restrictions lift. The plan is, as per, I believe the Borough Council do, on the summons it will say, if you have a question for public forum, please submit it to the office by, and we normally say midday the day before, again, to give us a chance to actually receive anything. And then the meetings will be live streamed so people can still watch. So people therefore can still participate. It may be that you still need to wear masks with being indoors, depends where we're at on legislation. And also I have discovered we may be able to get, is it the lateral flow tests for councillors? So you may, I'm just waiting to hear back, or be issued with tests to take day of meeting to ensure that you test negative before you come into the building. I'm just waiting to hear back on whether we are eligible from that. From what I've been told, we are, and that'll work for the staff as well, just to ensure as safely as we can, if we're going to get 20 people in a room indoors, that no one's got a summer cold and it's actually COVID in disguise. So that is what we're hoping to do. Jonathan's waving at me.
Jonathan?
If we have a lateral flow test as a councillor on the day of the meeting, does that mean we have to sit there with a mask on?
I will have to check the legislation, because my honest answer is I don't know. Because
No.
just because you don't have it at the 10-minute interval you've taken the test, say you popped into Tesco on your way to pick up a chocolate bar or something, you could then contract it and be transmitting it. And Emma's nodding at me at this point.
Well, the thought of having to sit in a meeting potentially for 2 hours with the mask on for that entire duration does not fill me with excitement.
None of us. They are actually reviewing. There is a review on whether the legislation may be extended on the 12th of this month, because there has been a lot of smaller parish councils, as David said, who have said, we can't do that. We haven't got anywhere we can meet, where we can socially distance and still be within the guidelines. So there is still a slight element of we're not sure. But I think unless you did the lateral flow test and were masked up and didn't leave anywhere other than your house, your vehicle and the building, I imagine that you still might have to wear a mask if it's indoors and there's 20 of you.
Yeah, it always says on the NHS thing that just because you're negative when you've had the floor test doesn't mean you got contracted after at work. So we still have to wear masks and we still have to social distance, even with the test. That's all.
Sorry, Jonathan.
For information, same with secondary schools.
Yeah, it is. Both my kids have them.
But as we're aware, the legislation can change from week to week.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully by the time we have the full council meeting, it will have changed, and it will have changed for the better. Hopefully. And I fully see Jonathan's point, but until they say we can do a certain thing, we'll just have to try not to do that certain thing, won't we? And try and stick to rules. Unfortunately, but that's where we are. Anything else on this, and then we can move on to the exclusion of public. No. Would someone like to move formally that we exclude the public, although there are none here, we still have to do it?
I'll move the relevant words as on the piece of paper, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Nathan,
Uh,
please stop the live stream.
Yeah, no problem.